sang this song to me. There was a message in its melody, sweetest lyrics that I ever heard. There's a message in the songs of birds. Tomorrow is another day. Living is the only way tomorrow's gonna ever come. Listen to the words of the song. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright.
So to everyone watching this episode, I want to thank you for taking your time to turn it on and listen, and even look if you're watching it on a platform where you can actually see the video. And today, as always, I promise to bring someone who can help you with techniques that will allow you to change your life, to reshape your thinking, your thoughts, your actions, so that you can begin to live the life that you dream about. You all know that I believe that everyone was sent here for a purpose. And when we look out in the world and we see all this stuff happening, it's happening because we are not on purpose. So because of that, I'm always going to bring you somebody to help us get on purpose. And tonight is no different. I want to welcome Shawn Singleton II to today's show. He is the author of Brick by Brick, Reshaping Your Thinking. Thank you, Shawn, for joining me.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to just pour into your audience and communicate in ways to help them be better, live better, and do it more consistently.
And we're excited to have you. So, we talked about that earlier, and I want to talk about your book. I want to talk about things that you did in your background. So, and I want to invite those that are watching now to type your questions into the Facebook feed. I have someone watching that feed, so that they're sending me those questions. So if you see me looking around or down, it's because I'm checking the question log to make sure that we don't miss anyone. We'll do our best to get those questions answered. If there are any that are important that don't get answered, I'll make sure that I forward those to Shawn so he can respond at his leisure. So I want to thank you for that. Little housekeeping. I want to thank my sponsor. As I always say, it's been a sponsor for every one of my episodes. I am incredibly grateful. So when you need a supply company to rise to your needs, call Resource Industrial Supply and Equipment. They do really great work, if I have to say so myself. So, so reach out and give them a call. And if you're watching this show, you are on my personal Facebook page, Empire DR. I want you to like that. You can also like Empowerment Doctor. That's my page too, but you won't see the live version here, but I do upload the recorded version afterwards like that. And run over to my website, champagneconnection.com, where you can see all of the podcasts and like those too. There's some cool merchandise out there, and I know I keep saying I'm going to wear some maybe next time. So get you some cool Life is Too Short to Drink Cheap Champagne merchandise. I really like it. It's very comfortable too, okay? Because I wear it and work out in it all the time. So thank you all for that. So Shawn, tell us about how you got started with the book, and be sure to include where people can find it.
Yeah,
all of that.
Yeah, I mean, the book actually started, I'd say, about 7 years ago. I knew that I wanted to write a book because I was inspired by different people growing up and seeing the success and how I got to college and all those things. And that was years ago. But, when I got there, I was like, oh man, I made it. And I felt like I really just had a voice and had a desire to make people's lives better. And so I started typing it out, but I never really could get it to a level where I felt like it was ready to publish. And so, fast forward a little bit, 2021 comes around, or 2020 comes around, and I'm like, I think it's time that I go ahead and write it and go ahead and publish it. And, so I've been working on this book for about 6 or 7 years, just trying to get the details together, trying to keep it concise and trying to keep it together. So, to get it on Amazon and like Walmart and Target online and all these different places, Barnes and Noble, to have my book out there and published, pretty much anywhere where you can type in book. You can type in Brick by Brick, Reshape Your Thinking in Google, and you'll see it pop up. I mean, just to see it get this level of recognition and all the people who've published articles about it and featured me on things like that. It just shows the dedication and effort that I put into, those 6 or 7 years were definitely worth writing a book that, to me, it's only 72 pages, but it's like everybody reads it like, yo, man, I can't just read, it's like, it's short, but you it's so much to think about, you know.
So tell us about the award you received in 2021.
Yes, that was a 2021 CREA Award. That was my very first award that I ever got. And it was just almost a statement to the effort and work that I put into the book and creating it towards a resource that people can go to learn how to create consistent principles in their life and really, you know, lead themselves down a path that creates their own journey, but without going through all these falls and stumbles and kind of going deeper in, as I call them in the book, holes. You know, we always go through life and we're always doing things, but you know, just teaches on these mental principles that you can apply to your life and really elevate you to the next level where you're out of these holes. And now you're starting to build on this foundation that you have that really can't, you know, it's not going to allow you to go backwards. And so the award was a 2021 CREA Award for sustainable. It was just recognizing authors and speakers and coaches who really emphasize sustainable principles, whether it's like in mental health, whether it's in life, whether it's in sustainability. And so it's just recognizing people who wrote content that was deserving of global recognition. So that was my first one, and I love it.
Oh, how did 2020 change your perspective on life?
Yeah, changed my perspective a lot. And honestly, a lot of the book starts with the setting of using that premise of 2020, because I realized a lot of people were going through life and experiencing this, you know, this kind of up and down thing. And I was like, whoa. And then some people were crashing. And it was like, wow, I'm like, okay, now we're taking all these distractions away, as I call them. You know, there's just things to keep your mind busy, and they turn into distractions that prevent you from healing from things that you actually should be healing from, that's, you know, could push you to the next level. And so that's why a lot of people, some people in COVID actually propelled their life forward, and others, it really just kind of, you know, sent them in this rocky state where they didn't really know what to do. And they were kind of going on, you know, just out of their mind. They were like, I don't know what to do now. I can't go to the gym. I can't talk to this person. I can't go around people. I have to like look at myself in the mirror. You know, people have to look at their spouses and their kids for the first time. And they're like, man, I really don't like, you know, being around you. It's like, well, you know, it's just, you know, we didn't like things that we were doing with each other, with ourselves, and how we were making other people feel. And there was really no outlet. So I think that was kind of the recognition for me, because even in my own life, I was going through things, and I wrote in the book as well from my perspective during that time, where I just started to recognize things that weren't right in my life, and other people were asking me for help and advice and how to get to these different places. And that's where it really started to resonate with me, that I think it's a bigger issue than just, you know, quarantine and COVID. So I decided to write a book about it.
I always say that it was the universe's way of putting us in one big, gigantic timeout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you're right. We were just binging out on activities and
Everything.
food and TV and everything, and not really looking at our emotional state about anything or how we felt about anything. And we would have those conversations that would say, you know, I really want to achieve this, but then you're at the next party, or you're at the next event, or you're at the next thing, and you didn't ever really get to achieve anything. So all those prayers people were praying that said, you know, universe, please help me find out what I need to do to get to the next step. We got it. It was a timeout.
Yeah. Sit down and reflect.
Sit down and reflect. Right. Been trying to reach you. Can't talk to you. Right. So what did you find was one of your biggest struggles doing 2020?
I think my biggest struggle was probably just realizing that I wasn't as great as I thought I was. And what that means, not like I thought I was better than anyone, but it was a sense of, we all have that sense of pride, not where it's like it's toxic, where you're, you know, vomiting on people everywhere you walk and down, you know, making them feel less about themselves, but where you just feel like you don't need any help dealing with areas that have happened to you in the past, that everything in the past is just the past and I've already moved on. It's a new year. And, you know, I see that common trend every time around New Year's. It's like, oh, it's a new year, new me. Like, the stuff you do this year is going to be who you are next year. I don't care. You know, December ain't going to change you. December 25th through the 31st ain't going to change you. Whatever you did up until December 25th is exactly what's going to happen to you. And pick up on January 15th, or whenever whenever that habit comes back to bite you. Because I realized that, you know, situations that we happened in the past really had an outcome on how we lived our life. You know, me not having a father, me growing up at 11, me having to leave my house at a young age where I didn't really have a childhood, forced me to grow up a lot faster than most people. And so, but I thought that I was fine because when I got to the age where I was an adult, I was like, oh, cool, I know how to do this on my own. But then I realized that the relationship with, that I didn't have with my father was affecting me in ways that was, people around me were starting to feel it. And what I mean is my wife and my kids, they were, not that I was a bad person. It was just, you can be better and you're not acknowledging this area. And so you're trying to run from it by plugging it with money, by plugging it with success, by plugging it with all these things, but it's not filling the void. And you think that the more you get, the better it's going to be. And it's like, no, it's getting worse. And so, that's what happened to me. It's like, everything just started getting worse. I was like, we doing well. And it was like, wow, like, okay, I need to go back and address some things. So.
You weren't the only one. Okay. It's like, right. It's like everything is getting worse and nothing I used to do is fulfilling. And then when you go back to try to do that stuff, it's just not fulfilling. So it's like you're still sitting there waiting for that thing. And that thing is to do, as you said, to work on yourself, to be the best thing you can do and finally get to work on some of those things that you need to take care of. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
All your friends told you, you need to know, you need to take care of them. So how did you come up with the brick by brick metaphor?
Yeah, so I took that. Part of it was honestly biblically based because I believe that, my faith had, relationship with God had a strong part in me just making it through 2020 overall. Because honestly, I kind of stepped away from, like, I had a ministry and everything, and I actually stepped away from it. And I've never told anybody this, so to say it live, you guys again, like, I've never told anybody this in the history of me speaking. So, I kind of stepped away from God, and I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna do this my way. And that's when things started to go downhill. Started going downhill even further. And I'm just like, all right, well, whatever. I'm just keep going. And then my wife left, and I was like, oh crap, this is actually hitting me. Like, like, hold on, wait a second. Okay, something's wrong with me. Like, I thought it was God's fault. I thought it was my fault. I was like, something's really wrong with me internally. Like, I have an issue. Like, something is wrong that I need to address. And so, it made me realize that the more I kept going, the less I was achieving as far as healing and growth and restoration, as far as anything, right? God, setting God aside, not out of my life, but setting him aside, it's in my life, period. Nothing was happening. No matter what I was trying to do, nothing was working. And so it caused me to stop, and then really acknowledge exactly what I was going through. And that's kind of the brick by brick metaphor really started to form, because my 5 leadership principles that I have are stop, acknowledge, assess, adjust, and then maintain. And so I literally went through those processes of stopping and then acknowledging what was in front of me, and then assessing the situation and looking at the damage that what I've done and what it was caused and what was a root issue before I made any adjustments. That took the longest part. But then I started to adjust things, and now I'm in the level where I'm just maintaining that growth that I've had and experiencing those situations in a different level, in a new light. And every opportunity gives me a chance to go back and review those principles at each step of the way. And so I said, okay, there's got to be a way to teach this to other people, that not introduce it. They're not trying to make them be like me, but for their own life. Do this in each area of your life, because that's what I had to do. I had to look at my friends and family, I had to look at my character, my actions, counseling, I had to look at my finances, I had to look at all these things and kind of apply those principles to it, that allowed me to get to this level where I am now. And so that's kind of where the concept was born, out of that, me doing that and realizing that even when I set aside something I valued the most or really walked away from, nothing was still not working. So it's like, all right, the problem is really me, and I need to address it.
So how did you stop doing something that you needed to stop doing? Because that's the hard part for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like we get on this hamster wheel and we just keep going. And then when we stop, we don't know what to do next. So I guess we become afraid. So we just get back and start doing more and more of what we were doing that wasn't working anyway. So how do you stop?
Yeah, stopping is very hard, because when you look at everybody around you, things start to, you're like, okay, I'm getting pressured to start going again. And I think that's the very first step you have to start, is to realize your story, your life is not going to be everybody else's. Comparing yourself to someone else is not going to help you achieve your dreams any faster. I don't care who you sit next to. I don't care who you sit under. I don't care who you learn from. It's not going to do anything for you if you don't stop and really get a hold of yourself and say, like, I need to make decisions for me, because yes, they may have done this and it succeeded, but maybe they didn't. And, something a part of their success, I don't want to happen in my life, but they're okay with, and I always say it all the time. I don't care how successful you are in life. How are you treating your family at home? How are you treating your home life? How are you treating those close to you? Because that's what truly matters. Because at the end of the day, $1 million is crap if I have nobody to spend it with, like truly who's there for me to spend it with, and then it's like, how do I grow this and like help me grow? How to help me get better? How do I create this environment around me? So you have to really see, not the outcome, but just understand that if you stop, it gives you a chance to rewrite the story into something better than what you thought you could create on your own, because you're not comparing yourself or rushing or forcing yourself to do something you're not ready to do or your character isn't ready to handle.
Yeah, and it seems like we have a really big problem with doing things so that people will like us and say nice things and compliment us, when some of those things won't help us achieve anything we want to achieve at all. But we got a lot of likes and a lot of compliments.
Yep.
So you talk about 11 bricks. So do you have favorites, or do you have ones that are harder than others? Is there an order you follow them in? Do you have sequential, or is it kind of like, you do the first 5, and if you're tired, so how does that work?
Yeah, my 11 bricks. My favorite ones are the first 3, which are the stop digging, and then you get into the clean your house, and then you get into the friends and family. I put those in the beginning intentionally because those are the first 3 areas that have the biggest influence over every single thing we do in life, period. And I just talked about stopping and the importance of that, and how that illustrating that in the book, as well as talking about it now. And then the cleaning your house is really the emphasizing the part of this repetition. You got to do this thing. This is a lifetime thing. You're not just going to do it once and then it's going to be over, because once you get to the next level, you got new challenges, new things to overcome. But if you stick with the principles that built the first level, you won't have to go back down and start over. And I think that's what people fail to realize. And so then you move on to the friends and family, which is like, I think that's probably, I always say this about everyone. It's like, this is my favorite one. It's because, I'm just building on this process. And I really love when people are in this stage, because it means you're fully taking control of your life. Because you're telling your family, hey, I respect you. You're learning how to balance my family's opinions versus what I need to do for my life and what I want my family to be. Because being honest, the generation that, yes, your parents raised you in, it's not the generation you're in now. They may have good insight for you, but it's not the direction that your life is going to go and going to take. And they may be giving you good feedback, receive it. But it's like, I hear you. I'm going to set that on the table as an option that I'm going to choose from, because you still have to have that respect and honor for them in that regard. But there's also a level where you can take their opinion and set it aside, where it's like, I'm not even going to listen to it, because they may not be in a position where you are to even give you sound advice, for you to lean into. And likewise with your friends who may be influencing you to do things that aren't for your best benefit, and maybe sucking energy from you. You're like, man, why can't I ever do anything that succeeds? Because your friends sucking the life out of everything you do. The second you start, they're like, oh, go do this. And you're like, man, I've got like 7 different businesses and none of them are succeeding. Or, like, cause my friends always like, they don't support me. It's like, I don't care if my friends support me. I don't need you to support me. It's like, I just want you guys to be there for me when I need to talk to someone and be real and be honest and, be transparent. And it really just helps you redefine what those relationships are, so you know what to do next. And the rest of the bricks just sort of fall in line. I mean, you can pick and choose at that point, because once you handle that area, you start to realize what you need to focus on first. So after that, it's fair slim pick, or what's that, fair game.
I know sometimes I was just thinking, I said, you're right, because friends can give you 50 things to do that you should be doing. And it's like, there's just no way possible you can do all of that. It just cannot. So you mentioned not having a father after about 11. So.
Oh, no, I didn't have him at all.
Oh, you didn't have him at all. Okay.
No.
Okay. Okay. You grew up without a father. Okay.
No, I didn't have him at all.
So how did that affect your life?
A lot, because he left when I was 2. And so, growing up, I went through a lot of changes and experienced things with stepfathers between that period that I don't want to discuss right now, but it's things that changed my life definitely made me realize I need to step up earlier. And so, like, I mean, when I say running, I don't mean like everybody's typical story of like, no, it wasn't like I was playing basketball to get my mom to the league. I was out shoveling driveways, cutting grass, asking my uncle to take gutters, like to get money from my mother to pay bills. Like it was like that level. And then coming home and balancing the checkbook, and then coming home and figuring out what we need for dinner. Like it was that level of like, I was the man of the house essentially, for quite, from like 11 to about 14 or so. Until she found, until another stepfather came in the picture, and he was a great guy. I think he did a lot for my mother and in that regard. But at that point, I didn't really see like men at that point were just, it's like, I've already reached that level where I've seen what you guys are good for. I don't need no more advice from you in this regard. I'm going to go talk to somebody else, go talk to a teacher, but that's kind of my, how it started. So, it affected me in a way where it caused me to grow up earlier. And so it allowed me to see childhood differently, which I think gives me a perspective now, which is why people desire my book and me to speak so much, because they're like, how do you go through this for so long, but then you come out and like, if I look at you, you look at me, you see a wife with 5 kids, your wife doesn't work, you're doing all these things, you're really successful. Like, how are you doing this and still keeping your character? It's like I don't even care about what you do or especially like you as a person. Like I've seen people who die of a father and they end up on the opposite side of the spectrum. I've seen people who don't know how to treat, like you did something different that is gravitating people and things and stuff towards you, positive, good things towards you. How is this possible? What are you doing differently that I didn't do? And I think that gives me a different perspective, because I didn't really have anybody in that regard to tell me. So I really had to learn it. To me, it started from God. It started from, understanding how he was a father to us and how I could do things that pushed me in the direction that, led to the success that you're seeing now. So obviously it's working. Must be working.
It's working. That's right. So what 2 techniques can you share on this show that people can use to stop sabotaging themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the first one is, the 2 techniques I would say, and it's not really a technique, more so it's a frame of mind. You have to just be willing to fail. And what that means is to try something and then fail at it. Try to be a better, father, a better person, or a better leader in whatever area. Try to be a better business owner, whatever, and just fail. Like, allow some things to just, yep, this ain't working. Just be able to say that, yeah, I messed up, because I think a lot of us hold on to that and try to make excuses for it. And there may be valid reasons, but just accept the fact I made a poor decision. I say this all the time. I made poor business decisions. Even now, that's cost me money, but I don't care. I'm like, I'm learning now. I know how not to do this again, but it's just being able to admit that you can fail and that, you're not going to have everything right. That's the very first, I wouldn't say technique, but it's just like the frame of mind you have to be in, is that you're going to make mistakes and you're going to fail. And then the second one I would say it's another mental state thing. But just learning how to plan ahead, learning how to make decisions without snapping, and what I mean by that is people make decisions like this. They try to teach you to make decisions like this. Everything is social media, on advertising, whenever you're buying a car, like it's always like, make a decision. Like you have the ability to tell somebody or something no, and take a few days and walk out, to stop making decisions in the environment where you're pressured in. If you can't walk away, don't accept the deal. It's not a good deal. And that's really the 2 biggest techniques I would say, is being okay failing, and then learning how to take your time to make decisions and think about what happens after that. Yes, what you may get looks great, but then what affects that is you have no money to maybe pay your bills. You have no money for expenses. You have no bandwidth left because you have to work 2 jobs, and now you can't spend the time with your family, or you can't go to counseling. You can't get the healing you need. So it's like, you make these decisions without thinking about the stuff that's affecting you. You try to jam it all together. Then you realize you're too busy for nothing, and you have no success to show, nothing to show for it. Not even success, just no life to show for it, really. And you're really, back in the cycle of being overwhelmed, and you're just repeating the same habits that happened before 2020. Your life's going to revert back, and you're not going to progress or do anything sustainable or consistent. So if you really want to get there, you have to accept the fact I'm going to fail. It doesn't mean you're a failure. Don't let your mind take you down that path. I failed, man, I messed up. What can I learn from it? And then stop making decisions in the environment that you're pressured in, or, just really in an environment anyway, where you just be in a place where you're comfortable, be by yourself, talk with people, invite them in that you can trust. So you're not, making snap decisions in that moment.
I agree. And I do try to tell people, and they said they're pressuring me. I says, so tell them to stop, or but don't buy that now, or don't do that now.
Mhm.
Give
Yeah.
yourself some time to think about it. You got to feel, you're right, because in that pressured environment, it's almost like you feel like you just have to say yes, when
Mhm.
you don't have to say yes. You can say no. And trust me, if you decide 3 days later it's yes, they'll figure out how to make it work for you.
And it's still gonna be there. It
It's
is.
still gonna be
Still
there,
gonna-
right?
Yeah. Or a better one may even come along. What I find is the more time you give between making a decision, something better pops up that fits exactly what you needed in the first place, because you weren't, you had time, like, okay, I wasn't really willing to risk it all on this one thing. But now this opportunity, like, yeah, I'm really risk it all here. I know this one. Yeah, I trust this, so that's all.
So as a cognitive behavior life coach, what are some of the common issues you see, and what can people do to correct them?
Yeah, see, I think the biggest ones, and I think I just mentioned them before, but it's like the fear of failure. Everyone's scared to fail or scared to start something because they think that they don't have the whatever, they psych themselves out, or they think they don't have the support, or people are not going to do anything. Or it's just, even just changing yourself, right? Just the way you spend, just you're operating your daily life, just changing that. It's like, I know I'm going to fail. It's like, try it, take the chance, do something different. I always say that, the best way to combat that fear is to if you're doing something different than the people around you, you're going in the right direction, because it means you're realizing that your environment is not your resting place. You haven't found a space. You shouldn't ever be the smartest person in the room. You shouldn't be amongst your friends and the smartest person. I never am. There's always someone smarter than me, always someone older than me, always someone more experienced in something, because I don't want to be in a room where I can't be challenged or have that dialogue, or feel like, I have room to be wrong. I want to be wrong, and I want you to tell me I'm wrong, because that's the only way I can get better. But you have to just, allow yourself to accomplish that and get over that fear. And it's not easy. And a lot of times it takes a lot of commitment, and it takes a lot of community, and whether it be in counseling or just a friend that you really trust and you guys are vulnerable with, you can really share and encourage you to keep going. But you really have to just, get over that fear that you're going to fail, and just, like I said before, embrace it, because it's going to happen, but it doesn't have to be who you are. It's just something that happened to you that you can make something from, but you can still move past it.
Yes, I don't think you really fail if you look at it. Like you said, if you look at it the right way. What did you learn?
Mm-hmm.
You learned something that you didn't know that you needed to know. So exactly. Is that really failure? Or did that just add to what you needed to know, so the next time you can make a different decision because you've got more information? Exactly. And I agree. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You're just in the wrong room, right?
Yeah. And I know people heard that before. Like, I know some people probably tune out. They're like, oh, I heard that before. But they break it down. If you're the smartest person, meaning you think that you're right all the time, you're in the wrong room. If you have no value for people around you, right, your circle needs to change. That means you don't have any value from the people around you. It doesn't mean like, oh, you're the smartest person, you know something. No, you don't find your friends valuable, so you're not talking about anything that actually matters. I get around friends and I talk about business, I talk about religion, I talk about Christ, I talk about growth and all these things that matter, stuff, how I'm treating my wife at home, how am I treating my kids, how can I be better here? Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean. You're not the smartest. I'm not like, oh, I'm an expert. It's like, no, here's how I was able to do this. How are you able to do that? And that's, if you can't ask your friends that question, or you have no desire to, change your circle, because either they're too young for you in maturity, or they're just not at the level where you're trying to go. And that's okay. People are only meant to be in your life for a certain season. Not, some people aren't lifelong friends. You really only have 5 of them in your life. So take your time and, just walk it out and find some new ones. Spend some time by yourself.
It's that self-stuff. It's that spend your time by yourself stuff. Now, that's the stuff that got us in the time out. We don't like ourselves that much. And you're right. We need to learn to like ourselves. I've got a girlfriend that one of the lyrics, she's a singer, and one of the lyrics is, he loves me, my hips, my thighs, my eyes. It's like, so I thought, yeah, you got to love yourself, fat thighs and all. Okay. Just got to. So, exactly. That's right. So tell us about your marriage and like almost 5 kids. That's really cool.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, fifth baby's on the way. I mean, marriage is amazing, and I think for me, it's just a huge. Because I got married at 19, so it's been a journey. And if you get the book, you'll see why. I mean, that's just a microcosm of like what happened. It's so much more than that. But it's really a consistent effort. Really, I think marriage overall is nowadays is you love until the money dies, or you love them until they get on your nerves, or you date them until you find something better. And it's like nobody's really willing to stick it out anymore, and not really say, hey, I know this is who you are, let me understand where you are so I can communicate better, rather than seeing the selfish side of, well, you don't understand me, so I'm going to leave and find someone else who does. We always see the one-sided picture instead of understanding that they're a person too. And I think that's really what it takes to make marriage work, and really make us having 5 kids and and enjoying that obviously crunches up your time. And it's like, oh, you can't travel and do all those things. It's a different level. I think, especially when you grew up how I did, you see that there's so much more to life than traveling and doing all the things, because we have time to do that. And if we do our job correctly, we'll have, children who are obedient and, listen and respectful and create other people like us to continue to make the world a better place. And if you have sons or daughters, in about 10 years, let us know. We can see if they like each other, But no, that's just what I believe that, marriage does. And it really illustrates that love relationship that you can have with someone that transcends anything that's physical or tangible,
So when some people are in long-term relationships, as you mentioned, like you say, they love you till the money runs out, or till the figure runs out, or they don't stay. So when you find yourself in that position, what do you recommend people do? Because I don't think that you should just, unless the marriage is abusive or something, I don't think you should just throw it away. Of course, if the marriage is abusive, I don't recommend staying in any place that's harmful to you emotionally or physically. Get out as soon as you can. But if it's not, what do you suggest people can do to I guess, reintroduce themselves to each other again? Because sometimes we've been so busy before COVID, so we've been just over here and over there, but not like we are now together.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I did this. I think they were really solidified. I mean, it's okay to take some time apart. I mean, it's not even like, some people think like separation is like, no, like literally take some time apart. Just somebody go over here. I mean, we made it work. It was awkward, but it's what we needed. We needed a break, and we learned. We navigated the life with the kids for a little bit, where she had them here, I had them here. I was still working and taking the kids there and there. I mean, it's still paid for gas, and it wasn't like I was cutting. It was like, we just need some time together to work on ourselves and heal. But we were also in counseling during that time. I was in counseling during that time. My wife was in counseling during that time. So it was really a commitment. We said, we know that something's wrong. And at the end of the day, I think people get to that state where they're like, oh, I want to leave, because they made the choice of marrying a person on the wrong pretense. I married my wife. She's beautiful. And I mean, you guys can probably see her by searching my name and you'll see what she looks like. But, my wife is beautiful, but I didn't make it based on how she looks. I made it based on how her mind was when it was in a situation where I did something wrong to hurt her, and how she responded to that. And it wasn't intentional. It just so how it happened, because we were friends at first, and then she, had this emotional connection for me, but I wasn't really there with her. But then I dated someone else and I broke up with them, and I was just heartbroken over it. And then I called her and I talked to her about it. For some reason, I called her, but then her response to my heartbreak with another person, even though she had feelings for me, was, man, he needs, God in that sense more than I need him to like him. I'm going to pray for him in this moment, because my feelings are set aside. He's hurting right now. And I was like, that's the mindset I wanted in a wife. That's the mindset I want raising my kids, because that's what's going to matter the most. I don't care what your body looks like. I don't care how good you look. That's not going to be raising my children. That's not going to be raising our legacy. That's not going to be supporting me on a day-to-day basis when I'm learning, because I knew I didn't have a father. I have no idea how to be a husband. I know how to be a great one now, but at the time I was like, I have no idea. I'm gonna need some grace. I'm gonna need some forgiveness. I'm gonna need somebody with some mercy, somebody with some prayer, And I just waited. I waited for her to show up, and then she did, and that was when I knew, and that's how we've been able to last as long as we have. So it's really, and it's almost 8 years now. So Yeah, we've been going for a minute.
Oh, and I bet your kids are just so precious. It's like, gosh.
Oh, yeah.
So you talk about the triad of doubt, fear, and trust. Tell us how you developed this and how you use this to help others.
Yeah, the triad of doubt, fear, and trust, it came from me just having an insecurity about myself, not feeling like I was attractive enough when I was growing up, not feeling that anybody really believed in me or supported me when I was growing up. And so I didn't really trust a lot of people. And obviously my relationship with men really, that was a really huge factor for me, because I was like, well, I don't trust anybody. I didn't trust any guy to be like a true friend. I was like, I don't, so I always thought everyone had an angle. And I was always scared to do something because, I didn't want to, I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes that my dad was made, that my dad made by not being there, or another man made by, mistreating my mother and my sister, or, just guys in their life. And it's like, man, that's so much pressure. And then it's like, how do you overcome this triad of doubt, fear, and trust? How do you get out of this mindset that you actually can do something different and you have the abilities and the skills to do that? And how do you get there? And that's where, like I said, a lot of the book came from, just taking following those steps. Each step of my life is just, I had to come to a point where I had to stop, acknowledge, assess, adjust, and then work on maintaining. And the stopping, acknowledging, and assessing, I probably repeated those 3 steps, maybe, 5 years before I finally got it right. And before I started figuring out, oh, I can just change this and now I get better, that's just the reality. And I think that a lot of us don't give ourselves that room to breathe because we want it now. We're an instant culture now. Everything's got to happen now. We got to have it now. We got to have the success now. We got to have the healing now. It's got to now. It's like, chill out. Allow some time to and that's where the embracing the failure comes from. That's where the, overcoming that fear, like knowing that you have time. I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, but you have time. You do not have to rush and have it now, because would you much rather have it in 5 years and be able to keep it for 30, or have it now and only keep it for 5? It's just the reality that people don't really think about. It's like, we want it now, but you won't be able to keep it long term. And that's what, I had to understand. And that's what I using that triad and built and established within myself.
Now, we always know women are working hard to change themselves and be the best person they can be. So how have men reacted to your process of making change?
They love it and hate it. I mean, some of my audience was men at first when I first started, and they really loved it because it excelled their levels and with their wives and their spouses. And even when they were considering dating for the younger audiences, they were like, man, I didn't think it was that simple. I'm like, yeah, it pretty much is. It's just a lot of work and understanding, working to understand your spouse, understand her, because, it's challenging. It is. But it's work for them to understand your, our crazy behinds too. Like, we ain't easy. We think stuff is simple. We think in boxes, women are different, and you guys are made differently. And I think I'm teaching men to embrace our differences, and really all my audience and people I talk to, it's like they're embracing the differences in themselves, but also in each other. So they're realizing that, hey, you went through things that have made you the way that you are. Understand that they have too. So when you're reacting from something instead of responding, you're going to trigger something from them as well that they're going to react instead of respond to. And so somebody has to come down and say, let me respond the appropriate way that's going to help you heal, because then they'll respond the appropriate way that'll help you heal. And then you can have that level and you can have that conversation and talk. And it's been challenging, but I do have gentlemen who still call me now, and they'll tell me like, hey man, this is happening. And I walk them through that process. And sometimes it's like, I don't know what to tell you to do because that's not my job, but I do know if you practice this, work to understand her, just talk, go to counseling, keep going back. And that some people don't like it. Stick with me for long because they're like, you don't tell me what to do. I'm like, because you're not me. I see things differently. You're not going to achieve the same things that I did by doing the same stuff that I did. You have to do what works for you because your spouse or your wife or your girlfriend or your husband is different than me. I'm not the same. We're not the same. They went through stuff that creates their own story. You know that, I don't. And so you have to, here's a basic outline you can do to figure it out. And I'll be here to help you along the way, but I'm not going to be the person to tell you, yes or no, you're doing the right thing, because ultimately we are only ones that know that question.
So how do you keep yourself accountable?
Oh, me? Oh,
Huh?
all the time. Stop, acknowledge, assess, baby. It's all.
I love that.
I start with my circle. I talk to my, the friends that I have around me who encourage me and allow me to fail. Because sometimes I'm in the public eye a little bit more now. So a lot of people see me and they're like, oh, I post something here, like, oh, this is. I'm like, oh gosh, So it's just being able to talk to them and tell them that I failed. I even have 2 accountability partners now. We talk to each other about life. He asked me and make sure that I'm staying on focus, staying on mission, and just maintaining who I was before I started becoming, Shawn the speaker, inspirational, motivational author, whatever. It's like before I became this guy, you knew me from before. So, help me stay accountable, just keeping my original character intact. He'll let me grow because he understands that my time and schedule is different, but he knows the difference between me acting out of character versus me, being more professional and efficient in what we both believe that God has wanted me to do. So that's how I stay accountable. Is I talk to people. I tell them, it's only a few though. Don't go around telling everybody what's going on.
That's right.
Don't go around telling your business and this ain't the water wheel. You just dripping down like, what's Shawn going on? Like, no, just confidential.
Oh, you're not kidding. So, what lessons do you wish your father would have been around to have taught you?
Yeah, I definitely wish that he would have been around to teach me how to stay married. Oh, ironically. No. I wish, it's just a wish, to like, man, I wish that my father was with my mom and he could call me and be like, man, like, damn, my wife get on my nerves. And I just, just to hear him be like, yep, your mom been getting on my nerves since she was 5. But, it's like, she didn't get on my nerves since she was 5. Like, there ain't nothing new. All right. You come on over. We'll talk about it. And you're going to go back out and go talk to your wife and y'all going to figure it out. Cause there ain't no, just really give me that encouragement, knowing you that, hey, this is going to be challenging, but leaving is not the answer. No matter what happens, no matter, it's like I said, as long as it's not abusive or anything like that, but leaving is really not the answer, because what's going to happen is you run away, you're going to create that exact same problem somewhere else, or even multiply the existing ones you have. So it's like, just stay there and work it out, because the next person is going to have to pick up your baggage plus the baggage of this person, especially if you guys have kids involved. It gets so sticky and so messy, and just, I've seen it work really well, especially now in this culture, to really emphasizing co-parenting. But I still think that, like I said, I wish my dad would have just been there to teach me that, how to stay married and how to be here and just, the normal thing. Because my uncle really stepped up and showed me like how to repair things and how to be a contractor, how to change a tire, fix a toilet, do this stuff. And so I remodeled my basement, remodeled my house, and I love him for teaching me all those things. And but yeah, that's the biggest thing I wish he would have showed me.
Yeah, I had a grandfather, so he showed me a lot of things like that. But I figured I needed to find that in the husband I have, and I did. So it's really, really cool. Yeah. So,
there you go.
Yeah, it is. So you work with your community. So how do you? What kinds of things are you doing in the community, and how are you helping others, especially younger people, learn to reshape their thinking?
Yeah, I'm just involved, just being involved. I mean, me being a person is a testament, a testimony for them to learn from. And obviously, because I emphasize and push myself into the platform of talking to youth and young adults more, I'm more aware of the things and challenges that they have facing. I'm a young adult myself, so it's a little bit easier to relate to them and see, like, I see what you're going through, because I remember what it was like for me. And now I see you have this extra challenge that makes it this much more difficult for you to do one simple thing. And so I try to relate to them by being involved, whether it's at my church and youth ministries and youth groups, whether it's in just, my son's school, just being in the robotics program and teaching them that, and just doing everything that I can to be involved, as free, for the free 99, what can I do for free? What can I, stepping up and being a host for, like I said, my church at the young adults events where they need somebody to speak more and be more vocal and open. It's like, hey, I got it. Let me use the gift that I already have. I've already done this in schools and stuff. Like, let me do it here. And so it's just, being available and just continue to build a story and helping them just see the perspective that they can do whatever it is they're trying to do. There's just a way you have to use your environment to learn how to get there, because everybody's environment's the same, but you can change it and even use it if it's not what you want to get to where you want to go. It's just being, got to work a little bit harder at the end of the day.
Is there a technique that couples could maybe use, say, once a week when they could take some time out to discuss what's going on with them so that they can better their relationship or make sure that they feel like, I guess, make sure they feel that they're heard and that they're loved the way they need to be loved?
Yeah, absolutely. My wife and I do this thing that works so well. It's just called 20 seconds. We whenever one of us gets frustrated or agitated with each other, 20 seconds. We call it 20 seconds. And what that means is I'm literally going to hug you for 20 seconds. We're just, no matter how we're feeling, I'm just going to hug you for 20 seconds and not say anything. We're not talking. We're not doing, we're just embracing the moment and letting us both get to this level where we're just calm. And sometimes it's going to be moments where you don't want to be touched, which is where it comes into the being, just mindful of the timing, of your conversation. And I learned this from a pastor this past Sunday. So it's great that you asked me that. It's this timing, tact, and then tone, the timing. Don't say something right when they walk through the door or, right when they're about to sit down or go eat or do something that's like, come on, like good and well, they're not going to sit and talk to you for 25 minutes about something that you want to talk about. They want to get in the shower. They've been at home with the kids all day. They've been out working all day. They've been at work too. They just got, this timing. But then you can also block out time, for what you want to say, make an appointment, say, hey, can we talk about this tonight? So that way it's both of your schedules and, I want to talk about this. And then you have the tact, which is how you say it. Obviously, you don't, start with I. Talk about what you can do better. What's helped me the most is when I stopped telling my wife what she could do better or what she did to hurt me. Rather, I felt, I using the I statements. I know it sounds like counseling, but it works. It's like, I felt like this when you did this. I don't know whether you meant it to be that way, but this is how it made me feel. Because sometimes the intention of what they said we just took it out of proportion, and that's a reality. We got to admit, again, another failure. Yeah, I misinterpreted that. Yeah, you went overboard. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant at all. And so we're all susceptible to that. But it's just making sure that you guys are both being heard, and what I heard you say was this. Is this what you mean? Because sometimes it's like, oh no, I didn't explain that correctly. And then obviously the tone. Yelling is not going to resolve anything. And I try to talk just like I'm talking now. Is how I argue with my wife now. We don't really get to this level where it's like we're in a conversation because we're talking. And so when I say arguing, like, yeah, we still get into it. Like, we're people. People always gonna get on each other's nerves, okay, to the day we die. All right. I don't care how much love you got in the air. You're gonna get on my nerves at some point. I mean, if we sit on this call long enough, we're gonna get on each other's nerves too. So it's just people are just people. And so it's just how it is. And so there's a time, the tone that you want to use with each other, and, pay attention to those clues where you're not raising your voice or yelling at them. So use that 20 seconds tool as like an intermediary till you get to the level where you can talk. Even if you just come home and you mad, hey babe, 20 seconds. It's 20 seconds. If you can't take 20 seconds to hold your spouse and just take a break, your life is too full. You guys need to cut some stuff out and slow down. That's just the reality. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Something's wrong. If you don't have 20 seconds throughout the day to hug your spouse, that's the problem. That you only need to talk. That's the problem. You don't have 20 seconds to hug each other. And so, something's wrong, and it just got to be addressed. And I'm not saying this is like a foolproof formula, because obviously there's other things that could be involved in it, but it's a great starting point, because if you feel like you can connect, you can just hold them. It'll do so much more and release the stress and allow you to kind of calm down and come at it with a different mindset, different level, and understanding, hey, I love this person. Let me talk to them like I love them, not like I'm supposed to be, ruled by them or, that never works. So.
And I think that's a good idea, because people do need to have time to switch from I guess one persona, the work facade, to whatever you are, to whatever role you play at home. And those are generally different personalities, different people, especially if you, as a woman, if you have a stressful job, which I have a stressful job, but my husband always would find something that would make me laugh. So that would, but you have to sort of take some time to switch. So yeah, you're right. 20 seconds. That's a good idea. That's good. Everybody got 20 seconds.
20 seconds in the morning, at night, something. 20
That's
seconds.
right. 20 seconds.
I'm mad at you right now. 20 seconds. Come on.
That's
But
right. Come on.
makes
Okay.
it makes our arguments like they're not, they don't get heated because it's something that just breaks the ice. Like when you do it for like a week or so and they say 20 seconds, it makes you literally see them as the way that you saw them during those 20 seconds. Now you're no longer not mad. You're like, you're right. Come here. Like, 20 seconds. You're right. This is what we do when we're mad at each other because we're a team. We're partners. We're together. I'm holding you. We're not talking. We're not saying anything. I'm just remembering the day that I held you when I got married to you, the day that I held you when, we were intimate and stuff like that. It brings those memories and releases those endorphins in your brain where you're like, this is why I love this person. This is why I'm with this person. And then the second you open your mouth, it might be over during that moment. So don't talk. Just hold, just hold them. Just hold them, and then just walk away. Just walk away.
Thinking the same thing, because women always say, it was all right till he opened his mouth and said something dumb.
Yeah. You want to do it? Come on, man, calm down. Just hold it, walk away.
Oh gosh, that is really cool. So do you teach classes or you counsel? How are you, what platform do you use other than speaking to teach people these kinds of techniques? Because we speak this a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually working with my team now to start up a webinar series that we're going to have. And that is going to be sent out in our distribution email. So if you want to go to ShawnTheSpeaker.com and just subscribe to the email, or just send me a contact, fill out the contact form at the bottom and just say, hey, I'm interested in your webinar when you have it, just so I have a list of people who know, because it's going to go out to the whole thing, but I just want to make sure that I include you on that list so you have the chance to sign up, because me and my team are rolling out a series of them. We're going to have maybe an 8-week or so webinar series of just going over each brick. And so we're going to kind of throw everything at it. I mean, everything in the kitchen sink, whether you're young adults, whether you're youth, whether age group. I mean, it's going to be something in there for everybody. And really how I see it is adults, we're all just young people with responsibilities. We're no better than the children that we're raising. We just got more responsibilities, time, and bills. That's it. We still have concepts. I mean, it's the truth.
That's right. That's the truth.
We just think we've grown because we can spend money. It's like, yeah, but you're not doing too well with that. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. Like you wouldn't be in a situation. So are you really better than your child? We want to, just remember those principles that keep those fundamental values that keep us at that core foundation, so we can start rebuilding and building things that succeed. Because we know maybe it's just a kink in the holes that you unkink it now. You're like, oh, I didn't remember this when I was younger. Now I start to do this now as an adult. And then the water's just flowing. Some people it just starts growth. Everything starts like, oh my gosh, like, thank you, Shawn. This helps me so much. And so be on the lookout for that webinar series, and you can subscribe on the website, ShawnTheSpeaker.com, or you could just, like I said, send me an email at the contact form at the bottom, and we'll make sure you get on the distribution list.
So there are a lot of parents who have kids who are being bullied now. And my heart goes out to them, because when I grew up, it wasn't so much of that. It was more, but society wasn't as integrated. So we had a different fight, I guess. So that required us to be as one, to be a group. So which one of these techniques could one of the parents watching now actually share with their child to help them not do anything that would be harmful to themselves, like suicide, because they're being bullied?
Yeah, and I may not have mentioned it, so I'll go ahead and reiterate it. If you hadn't, just to address that topic in particular. I think because I dealt with bullying too growing up, and that's where that doubt, fear, and insecurity came from, where people are like, oh, you're ugly, or you're this, this. But then I remembered that, where I'm going, they won't be able to go. If I stay consistent with what I'm doing, as far as whatever they're bullying me for, it must be working. It's like, okay, I may not be whatever now. I may not be the most attractive now, but at some point I will. To somebody, I will be. And then I'll develop confidence. And it's just being patient in that you're not going to entertain it. And nowadays you're looked at as weak, or you're looked at as, let the pressure get to you. I don't know how, But it's just that you have to get to this place in your mind where I said, this will not be here forever. They're going to talk about me now. I'm going to continue to show them why. And here's what happened was, honestly, from elementary school to about middle school, I was bullied. But then when I hit high school, I was the smartest kid in my 9th grade class. I was literally tutoring seniors to graduate, seniors and juniors to graduate college, graduate high school, just high school math. I was helping them, tutoring them. And then people were like, dude, you're really smart. I'm like, yeah, you see reality getting close and now you have to play catch up and now you need me. My friends started to grow. They stopped bullying me at that point. They were like, oh, you're pretty cool. Oh, you play basketball? You're really good. Cool, man. Like we're, and I was like, oh, now they need you. And so it's a point where, it's that same scenario is going to happen if you don't give into it. And I know sometimes it can get really bad. And so parents, if you even have a child who's doing bullying, explain to them, they are dealing with the same things that you're dealing with too. And you're making them feel worse about their life. You have no idea what's going on in their home life that's making them act like that. I didn't have the greatest clothes. I had holes in my shoes and nobody explained this to those kids. I just had a different level of, I said, this isn't going to be my story forever. I know that. And now that's how it is. I'm doing things at 25 or 26 now that they aren't able to do, and I'm not saying it to brag. It's just because I kept myself and without biting in and letting them get to me, I'm able to do stuff that they can't do or they're doing on debt or credit that I'm paying cash for. That's just the reality. It's, it's not the brag. It's just, you can be like, hey, we're living a different life. You took all your time trying to make me feel bad. I actually use that as fuel to make me better. And now you want to work for me. Now you want to work with me. Now you're asking me if you got any jobs, and so use that mentality to fuel you to go forward. That, hey, if you have an ability, you have a gift, you have a skill, you have something that they're going to want to use later. So don't hold it against them. Just let them know, just keep your mind focused on exactly where it is that, that future destination. For me, I grew up without a father, grew up with nothing. So I said, I'm not going to allow that to be my testimony now. And so anything else that you say to me that's going to veer me off that path, it's not going to happen. I was trying to get a full ride scholarship because my mama told me she wasn't paying for college. And I thought college was the way out. I got a full ride scholarship. So, that's just how it is. I worked hard. I did not pay for college. I said, I'm not doing this either. So while they're talking about me, I'm learning how to get better, how to get things provided for, how to get opportunities that they wouldn't have access to because they spent so much time trying to make you feel bad. And so you don't try to solve the problem, and all the mediation ticks and peer mediation works, as far as telling your counselors, use your resources, tell your teachers, make sure you have an environment of people who trust and build you up. But you just have to get to a level where you don't really care what anyone else says about you. It's you. You got to know that you're going somewhere. You got to get there.
Yeah. I was that special child. I didn't care what they said about me. So my mother I remember I told her, I says, I was never bullied. She says, yeah, you were. You just didn't care. I just didn't care.
I couldn't change. You couldn't. I can't change it. I can't change it.
I don't care about what I can't change. So
you can't change it. Exactly. Yeah.
So you're also a certified personal trainer, and we didn't talk, we were like running out of time. So you got to catch us up on that. So where do you fit that in?
I try to combine, because how I started, honestly, in speaking was I started training youth and young adults using the principles that I use to build sustainable principles in your life, starting with nutrition, which is why my podcast, For the Youth podcast, which you can find on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It's geared towards mind, body, and movement. And what it means is we just combine everything together to sort of give you this program that teaches you why food is important, even now at a younger age, so you understand that it affects your mental, your emotional, your energy levels, your attention span, your focus, and like what you eat is important. What you think about, what you look at, what you see is important. And then ultimately moving your body does something to your brain, even if it's just 10 minutes. This ain't just go exercise. It's like just do something for 10 minutes. Just do jumping jacks, jog up a hill, do some push, something. It releases, a chemical, just stress relief in where your brain is not overloaded and you can really kind of decompress. And so I fit it in anywhere I can. Now that, it's winter now. So, when the spring starts back up, I definitely am going to start looking for more clients and, that I travel, I bring all the equipment or I meet them in a park or whatever. I'm very flexible because I'm just all about instilling value, instilling principles, and creating strong leaders for this generation.
Well, if you're ever my way, I do 45 miles hiking every day. I don't care what the weather's like. So, so I always have a pair of hiking shoes with me.
I know that's right.
So, tell us where, tell the viewers, remind the viewers where they can get your book, how they can get in touch with you, and about your podcast again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, ShawnTheSpeaker.com. You can buy my book on Amazon, Brick by Brick, Reshape Your Thinking. Amazon's pretty much the go-to place for everybody, but Barnes & Noble, you can buy it at Target online, Walmart online. And there also is a new edition too with the new cover. So if you want the newer edition, just go to my website, contact me at ShawnTheSpeaker.com, go to the bottom and say, hey, I want your new book. And I'll send you a copy, cheaper than what you can get it online. But you have to let me know. You got to write me and let me know. Otherwise, I won't send it to you. So, so my podcast is also there too. So,
I want to thank you for saying yes to my request of being a guest on the show. It's been fantastic. I've learned a lot. I'm sure my audience has learned a lot too. So thank you very much. As I always say before we end is, may this day offer you just what you need in each unfolding moment. Do not go gently into that good night, but find a heel worth dying for and take it. Be the person that you have been waiting for and make the day so awesome that yesterday gets jealous. And above all else, do it your way. I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, the Empowerment Doctor. And as you all know, life is too short to drink cheap champagne. Everyone go forth, have the best life ever using some of the techniques that we actually talked about today. And if you do, make sure you let me know how they worked out for you so I can share them with Shawn. So thank you very much. So good night.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, the Empowerment Doctor. And I just wanted to, for the next few minutes, to give you some tips about how to actually live your dreams. I want you to start with some self-discovery. I want you to take a piece of paper and write down 3 to 5 things that you've accomplished that you can absolutely brag about. I want you to write about how it makes you feel, some of the steps that you took. But these are things that you decide that things you would brag about. Don't ask your neighbors, your best friends. It's just you and this piece of paper. Next, I want you to do is to write a list of the things that you would like to accomplish. And as you do that, I want you to define what it is, how you're going to do it, and set a date when you're going to do it. And then I want you to dream. I want you to create a picture, a vision board, a collage. It can be magazines, you can use postcards, whatever you like, to create a picture of this thing that you want to accomplish, of the goal you want to achieve. After you've done that, then I need you to set the team up. Who do you need to reach out to help you? When do you need to get started? Are there any skills that you need to learn? And if there are, when are you going to start the process? I want you to give these steps a try this week and let me know how you did, because I'm sure you're going to have an amazing discovery. Again, I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, the Empowerment Doctor, and as always, I say, dream big.
But life's too short to drink cheap champagne, so I decided to buy me